Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ride and Ride Mechanic channel. How the heck are you guys doing today? Hey, I wanted to give a quick trip update. I went this past week to Disney World. I don't know if anyone could tell, I'm wearing a Haunted Mansion jacket. I honestly think that's pretty cool. I have a lot of Haunted Mansion stuff here in the office and I like it a lot. So let's talk about this trip recap real quick. Let's get into it.
Now get ready. Here we go.
First of all, welcome back and thank you for coming and watching another video. I appreciate it. And I wanted to go over a trip that I took. My wife and I, we went to Walt Disney World for a couple of days. We spent 3 days down there, had a pretty good time, came back, and we've gotten along far enough in the life where the kids stayed at home. And they were able to have fun at home, and we went ahead and went down there. We had a good time by ourselves. We first started off, we took a flight down there, of course, and we went to the Magic Kingdom on day number 1. We have been to the park several times before. We're avid Disney fans, so we go all the time. We had a pretty good time there. Let's see. First of all, we got the Genie Plus and stuff like that. We were able to get in the virtual queue first thing in the morning at the Magic Kingdom, that is, for Tron. So that was pretty cool. We started off the day walking around, just doing little rides here and there. Not too much. We're trying to make the best out of our Genie Plus pass, making sure we get all the rides in that we can and go see all the shows that we wanted to go see, things like that. Points of note, let's see. I believe Thunder Mountain and Pirates of the Caribbean were up and down all day. They're having a lot of issues keeping those two rides running that day. Why? I'm not too sure, but they were having some issues, so that wasn't great. But I still kind of shrugged my shoulders for Big Thunder Mountain because that final or second to final block break that it has where it comes out over that covered bridge type deal, and the block is uphill instead of downhill. That means every time they have a ride stop or something like that, they have to winch that train forward, which means a full evacuation, and it's got to be a lot of downtime for that ride and the occasional stoppage there. But whatever, that's not my ministry, as it were. So we were walking around. I got a couple pictures of the Splash Mountain overhaul that's going on. Not too much to see there. A lot of scaffolding up and things like that. They seem to have the top of the mountain torn off, and they're reworking it to the new ride. So that'll be nice and interesting. Can't wait to see what that's going to come out to be like. Went on the Snow White Seven Dwarfs ride and didn't really have much there. Sat in the front row, which was nice, and that's a fun little ride. Like that ride. There wasn't too much going on there. For a swinging coaster, I kind of expect it to swing more every time, but it doesn't. But really, to keep the mass in the right spot, they gotta tame that down pretty good. But gotta love Disney for their theming. They do an excellent job on their theming. And then the meat and potatoes of that day was Tron. Been looking forward to get on Tron. Always wanted to go on that ride, and I got the chance to get on there. We were moving along the day pretty good, so I didn't stop and take a bunch of pictures and videos, although kicking myself in the butt for that. I really wanted to take a bunch of videos from all over, but we didn't. We just moved through. Because Tron's one of those interesting rides that it's a Vekoma motorbike coaster, and it's one of those things, that ride fascinates me because I don't know how it works. You're like, I know, everyone's like, what? What do you mean? So it's a linear inductive ride, right? So it uses LAMs to propel itself forward. But looking at the launch track, I'm looking at the launch track and I'm going, how? How is it doing that? I don't understand it. I look at the trains, I'm like, okay, I see the brake fins on the side of the train, all right, and I see a large fin running down the center of the train. Okay, that's got to be the drive fin, right? So I look, and I've watched a lot of videos on this too. I've been like scratching my head on this. I've been like, what? How is this happening? So I watched a lot of videos on it, and I was just like, all right, so what am I going to see? And I'm looking at the launch area. Of course, Disney does a great job at covering everything in their launch area. Everything is painted flat black to absorb the light, so you can't really see what's going on because they don't want to detract from the show. You have to really hand it to them for that. They really don't want you to be focused on the mechanical of what is happening. They want you to be focused on the show of what is happening, which is one of the main reasons people go for that, myself included. But I'm looking down there, I'm focused on that bottom launch area, and the gap that's down there, it's got to be a 70 or 80 millimeter gap. Way too wide for that drive fin that's sitting down there. And then on the launch, you could see proximity sensors on the inside of that area as well. So I'm like, well, those aren't stators there, or motors down there if that's the case. So I started thinking about it. I'm like, okay, well, Vekoma and Disney, they like to merge, and they've always done this. They always figure out a new way to do something that they've always done in the past. When the motorbikes first came out, they had a launch trolley that came down and held the train, and then it was accelerated out that way. And they used actually a flywheel system down there, and then they went to Disney wanted to go to inductive motors, so they started doing that. So I'm thinking, okay, is it the same launch trolley? Is it just two cables running out over the end, like King the Car or something like that, or the old Top Thrills? Is it just two cables holding on the launch trolley that pull the train out forward? And as you get right into that launch area, I can see one brake in the center of that thing. And I'm like, well, maybe that's the trolley down there that grabs a train and pulls it forward. So I actually searched YouTube pretty hard. I was looking for someone that they had a video of between the trains to see if you could see an image of that trolley coming backwards to grab the next train like you would see at most of those types of rides. Nearest as I could tell, I can't find that out there. I've saw some videos that were POV, front to back, where they launched one train right after the other. Also, same thing, don't see that launch trolley come back. So I'm like, okay, it's driving from that center somehow. And I'm like, man, how is that thing doing that? So that is one of the things, even myself, I go to Disney and I kind of understand the concept of how they do things, but the way they hide and manipulate things around you, it really leaves you scratching your head sometimes. So if you got some information about how that thing is actually connected underneath that ride, I'd like to hear it, because I don't know. I don't know how they got that one done. I was starting to think, drive fins off to the side? No, there's nothing off to the side. Each coach has some little bars sticking out, but I've looked underneath the platform on both sides. I don't see anything. So I'm like, it has to be off that center drive fin. Just the question is how. Maybe it is a trolley sitting underneath there and they just did a really good job of disguising it or put it down deep. Which makes sense, because then you can get the magnets, or not the magnets, you can get the stators and stuff like that away from the track, and then you would lose that noise. It makes sense to not use cables too, because if you've ever heard cables under tension, they tend to make a lot of like twanging noise. High-pitched tensile sounding as they vibrate and jump up and down under load, and that would echo right back into the load station. It probably wouldn't sound good. So it's got to be a direct drive, something down there. So this is somewhere I'm sure you guys know. You could probably help me out, because my mind is curious. I'm looking for a video or something. I'm like, come on, man, Disney's good at that stuff. We had a nice dinner out there, and then around 5:30 it opened up and just started pouring. And I mean, man, it was pouring pretty good. We happened to have a Genie Pass at the time for, Peter Pan. So we went and got on Peter Pan and went on that, got off, and it was still pouring down rain, and the weather said it wasn't going to be stopping anytime soon. So the fact that we had actually worked our way through the majority of the park, and we pretty much got on everything that we wanted to get on, and we've actually done a couple things twice. So we just said, you know what, we'll call it a day. My wife and I both agree at the same time, we don't like to wear ponchos, because it just makes everything stickier and nasty. So we don't like to do that. So it's kind of, for us, it's like either we would go get an umbrella if we really wanted to, but sometimes it's just we were going to call the day there. And we did that. Walking back, we were just completely, it looked like we both jumped in the pool. Disney World trip update. It was a good day today. Ended up being a little rainy towards the end, but it's fine. It's fine. And then I made the comment. I said, okay, so viewer poll. If it's pouring down rain and you have to walk from the back side of the park to the front side of the park with no poncho, is this considered a shower? No, I know it doesn't, but I had that thought. I'm like, man, this counts as a shower, right? Come on now. So we made our way back, absolutely drenched to the bone. Everything was still wet the next day. In fact, for the rest of the trip, everything was still wet. Luckily, the shoes dried out pretty quick. But I mean, it was funny. We were going down Main Street there, and the curbs that were around there, a lot of the curbs, especially towards the castle, you could not see the curb. It was just completely flat and level underwater. And then down Main Street, I actually got a picture. There was a couple people looked like they were trying to swim on Main Street, and that was pretty funny to see as well. So we flash forward, then day number 2, we go to Hollywood Studios. Hollywood Studios, we've been there also a couple times, been to all the parks a couple times. So we start off and we get in early because we're staying at one of the hotels. We start off with Tower of Terror, always a classic. I like the theming of the Tower of Terror. I love the theming of the Tower of Terror. It's really great. But I like the execution of the ride at Disneyland, which is now Guardians of the Galaxy. I like the execution of the ride better there. So really, when Disneyland's Tower of Terror, that was the best for me. But since they dropped it, it's like, okay, well, we'll just go back to Disney World to see the Tower of Terror and enjoy the fun that is Disneyland's, or California Adventure's, Guardians of the Galaxy ride. So we did that, got on a Rock and Roller Coaster, still enjoy that one. That's a fun one. Don't know when they're going to redo that and get rid of Aerosmith, but eventually that's going to happen because Aerosmith's, a lot of people just don't relate with Aerosmith anymore. I mean, that's I've got tickets coming up here to their goodbye tour that's going around, so I'm going to go see them. That should be fun. And let's see, from there we went to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railroad. That's a nice one. I like going on that one. That's a fun ride. And then we honestly didn't go to really much in the Star Wars Galaxy Edge. Neither one of us are big Star Wars fans. So for us, we went on Smuggler's Run. That was fun. Enjoy that one. They do again. Disney does such a good job with their theming. I can't emphasize that enough. Right? They do such a good job with their stuff. Rise of the Resistance. We just didn't want to pay the money and wait in the extreme times to get on there. And we've been on it a couple times before. I've been on both Disneyland, Disney World. Disney World does a much better job of execution. Their cast members I don't know what it is. They're allowed to play the parts better, I guess it is. I'm not sure. But Disneyland definitely has a completely different feel to it than Disney World. Disney World's much more immersive when it comes to that. So, but we decided not to go on it since we've done it a bunch. And then we went around, did Toy Story, and we both kind of wanted to go on Slinky Dog Dash, but honestly, there was no more Genie Plus for the day for that, and we were there early, and there was no more Genie Plus for the day, and it was also up and down for a good chunk of the day, and the standby time was 2 hours and 15 minutes, and we were just like, no, that is not something we're going to wait 2 hours and 15 minutes for. Didn't do it. No, we called it an early evening that night after we were done with a lot of stuff. Got to see the Indiana Jones stunt show. That was fun. Like that. They do a good job with that production as well. So we called it an early evening and went over to Disney Springs. And we ate at a new restaurant there. It's new to us. because we haven't done it before. It's probably been there for a while though. Called the Edison. I actually had some pretty good food there. We were quite happy that we ate there. It was good. Head back to the hotel for the night and called it a day. Day number 3 was Epcot. Now, this was an unusual one for us because normally Epcot for us is like a half-day park. It's really like, it's relaxed, it's laid back, it's just kind of, yeah, whatever, we're just going to go. Let's go. And then we ride what we want to ride. And it's just like, yeah, okay, let's just go. We're done. Let's head out. But this trip, for some reason, we knew we wanted to get on Remy's Ratatouille ride. We knew we wanted to get on that one because that one was a new one for us. We hadn't been on that before. And we also knew we wanted to get on the Cosmic Rewind. That one we hadn't done before either. So we had those two. So we go to the park. We get in half an hour early because we were staying at the hotel. We start making our way back towards Ratatouille, and we notice that everyone's peeling off early, and they're going over to the land area. And we were like, why is everyone going over there? We weren't sure, but like the majority of the crowd peeled off and went that way. So we're like, wonder why that is. So we got to the Ratatouille ride. We waited there for, I think it was almost an hour. It was pretty full right off the bat. So we got there and we rode on that ride. That was another good ride. Would have loved to see more in the queue. Disney does such a job with their queue line, but on that one I felt like it kind of fell flat on that one. But we went in, we did the thing, they came back out. I had an absolute moment when I got off, or was getting off the ride, because the lady that was in line right in front of us, she says she was watching the cars move, and if you've ever been there, they all kind of synchronize into the station, all 3 at a time. They're autonomous ride vehicles, and then they all kind of dispatch at the same time and get in line and move out. And she goes, wow, that's so amazing. There must be so many magnets in the floor. And I just had to don't say anything. Don't say anything. And for those of you that are wondering, like, what, it's like, it's not, it's because I wanted to correct it and I wanted to explain what was going on, but I knew if I started to explain what was going on, it was going to be an hour later, and we weren't there for that. So I was like, okay, it's like, as we're walking, I'm like, it doesn't use magnets in the floor, by the way. like walking off from that. And my wife's kind of like tugging at me, come on, let's go. So then we went around, and we were able, with no kids, we were able to leisurely walk around the whole area, and we went to all the different places and saw the country setups and everything. We had lunch over in Italy at a really good pizza place over there. We enjoyed that place. We've been there a couple times before. So then it's like, okay, let's go do. We had I keep saying fast pass. That shows you where my brain is, right? We had a Genie Plus to go do Test Track, so we went on Test Track, and that's again one of those things that's like, it's kind of fun. It's kind of dated at the same time. It would be awesome if they could do a Cars ride there. That would be absolutely awesome, but that's not quite the park for it. But the Cars ride at Disneyland or California Adventure, way better in my mind. It's not as fast as that one, but it's way better. Like execution, everything, way better. The queue line, honestly, the thing that messes me up for Test Track is the queue line. It's just too long. It's too long. And it's not like the physical length of it. It's the whole, like, oh, go into this room and spend 5 minutes designing a car. It's like, I don't care. I don't care about designing a car. Well, now go forward and see how your car is. It's like, I don't care about that. I don't care about that either. It's like, I just want to get on the ride. Can I get on the ride now? That's what I want to do. Please let me on the ride. So we got off of that, and then we said, you want to do Soarin'? It's like, honestly, no, but yeah, let's go do Soarin'. Kind of one of those things we do. So we got there, we got in line, and honestly, wasn't excited about it at all, just because I don't like the Soarin' over the world part. It's not as good as the original at all. Like, I don't like it at all. But I was just, it's one of those things to do. We'll check the box, we'll get it done. So we got in line and we're waiting there, and we noticed that the line for that is massive. It was big, and we've been there a handful of times recently, and it hasn't been this big, and we don't know why, but man, it just seemed really busy. So we got in line, and we're watching the little pre-show where they show you the names of the cities and stuff like that, and it's like Camarillo. It's like, what? Orange County? What? And then we started looking at each other like, is this Soarin' over California? And we were just like, no, this can't be. No. Is it? And we started pulling it out and looking at it, and we started like, oh my gosh, this is Soarin' over California. Oh my gosh, that is the best thing. If anyone from Disney's watching, hey, Soarin' over the world, just throw that away. Nobody likes it. Go back to Soarin' over California. Everybody likes it. California, everything. Everybody likes that one. So we were totally happy. We were like over the moon happy that we got to see that again, because that is an amazing thing to watch. All the good areas that you get to fly over and all that stuff is very interesting. I love to watch it, and you know, it's just a good film all the way. And my favorite part in that film, because this is my one thing that I absolutely love and I completely geek out on every single time. My favorite thing is when you're out over that, I believe it's the Mojave Desert or something like that, and it just gives you a nice pan up over that desert, and then you have 6 F-18s come ripping by the screen, and you get that big rumble in your chest, and it really pierces your eardrums pretty good, trying to replicate like you were standing right there when jets flew by, and that is just the coolest thing. And then, of course, you get to end up at Disneyland during the holiday parade. That's awesome. We did the Living with the Land experience there. I also kept getting downtime on the Spaceship Earth, so we didn't get on that one for the day, but we weren't too upset about that one. All right, meat and potatoes of this park. Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. I specifically, and doing YouTube stuff all the time, it's really hard to do. But I specifically did not try to watch a bunch of videos or anything about that to genuinely be surprised about that ride in general. So I went into the ride completely not knowing what to expect. I know it was some sort of a spinning ride in the dark. That's about what I knew about it. It's like, okay, I've worked on spinning rides, I've done spinning stuff. It's like, whatever, well, okay. It's like, I knew it had a launch and it spun in the dark. Great. If you don't want any spoiler information about it, you might want to stop the video now, because I'll say stuff maybe that might be spoilers for people. I don't know, but might want to fast forward. So we in the queue line, and the queue line in the big building, it's a big back and forth all over. It's got some nice looking stuff, but I'm just not genuinely impressed by it. It's not speed rail in a building, so I'm happy about that. But it wasn't too anything crazy fancy. Kind of wasn't living up to par at that point in time, so I was like, okay, well, we'll see what happens. Everything was very plain. There wasn't really a lot going on there, so I wasn't sure what to expect. We get into this room, and they start the pre-show video. Again, this is going to be a spoiler if you haven't done anything. Start the pre-show video, and it is Terry Crews talking about what Epcot people are called. Epcotiites, what do we call these people? Terry Crews, my opinion, extremely hilarious. I love that guy. his facial expressions, everything. My wife and I, we spent a long time watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and if you've seen that, you've seen a lot of Terry Crews. I mean, that guy is super funny. So we were already cracking up that it was just it's Terry Crews on the screen. Like, come on. And then the big thing was, like, okay, we're going to teleport you to this ship. And there's this big thing in the ceiling that's like, okay, and it's got lights and you could see stuff in there. And I'm like, oh, let's see what happens here. We're going to teleport. And I'm like, okay. So I'm looking like everybody else, I'm looking up at the ceiling. What are we going to see here? It's like, and then they go, wow, you teleported. And I'm like, okay, I guess we're teleport. Holy crap. We're like, it's like an entirely new inside of a building. I have the general concept of what they did, but again, the execution was spot on, and the fact that I didn't try to look at it before just reinforced that. I was just like, wow, I didn't hear motors, I didn't hear anything. That thing that was silent and quick at the same time. So I was just like, wow, that was cool. We got off. We got out into the ride area, started watching dual loading stations. Great. It's got some throughput. I like that. So we see dual loading stations, see these vehicles come ripping in, slam to a stop. That's great because you don't have people in them. You could speed up the process so much when nobody's in there because you don't have to slowly bring it to a stop. You could just stop. So vehicles come in, boom, they get people in, they check the lap bars, they get them off and going. Okay. So I'm watching the vehicles as they come in. I'm looking down there. I'm looking at the back of the vehicle and the front of the vehicle as I'm in line. I'm like, wow, they got a pretty big wishbone in the back. I was like, wow, that thing is stout. Those things must be heavy. They must be really heavy because that looks like some big pieces of metal down there. I'm looking at the onboard. You can see the electronics package that's down there that's controlling the servo motors that are driving the gondola at that point in time, or the cab, whatever you want to call it. So not knowing what to expect, we get on, send us around. We're going to go up to the area. We do our thing, go around. It does like this nice little 180 turn into the launch area. At the same time, you rotate, follow the screen as you go backwards. And again, this is just the whole spoiler part, right? This is spoiler stuff. So if you don't want it, fast forward. And then I was like, oh, this is going to be the launch. This is going to be interesting because Disney and launches, I've got like Slinky Dog Dash in my head. Like that was ridiculous when I went on that. Not fun at all. But it's a kid's ride. And then it starts to launch. It's like, oh, okay, here. And then it picks up some good speed. And I'm like, wow, hey, this is cool. We're actually getting speed on this thing. And it goes up into the show building. And it starts twisting as the track starts running around. And just genuinely having fun on that ride. That was an absolute blast to run. They knew exactly where to put the gondola or cab and in what position as you went around this stuff. It was very smooth. It was very fast. It felt like it had some good G-force in there. I could tell the way the seats were, the seats accommodate pretty much most all sizes of people in there. And my wife and I had a great time. And that's one thing we said, man, if we had to pay to get on that again, we would pay to get on that again. And we did the first time because even with the Genie Plus and that sort of stuff, that virtual queue opened up. And we were there at 7 o'clock, right when the queue opened. And we were there, and we're like, okay, it's not open yet, not open yet, not open yet. And as soon as 7 o'clock rolled around, we're like, check in. And it's like, nope, there's no more times left. Missed it right on the dot. Later on in the afternoon, we tried it again. Missed it the second time, too. But I don't know if it was because of the Genie Plus we were able to pay $20 a person, but we were able to get on the ride. So that was a good thing. Anyways, that ride was like the highlight of the trip. That was amazing. And I tell everybody, like, whew, you got to go on that ride. It is genuinely so much fun. Like, everyone will enjoy that ride. They got a winner right there with that one. Great ride. Then we headed out for the evening after that. And vacation was over at that point in time. Time to come back home and go back to work. only notes I have, it's like, yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind was the highlight of the trip. That was amazing. The new Remy ride for us, the Ratatouille ride, that was also really good. We love that. Tron, in my mind, it's probably the ride height that ruined it. I don't know for sure, but you know, the Vekoma builds those trains in such a fashion where they can accommodate most riders. And then Disney is like, we're going to have little kids. So they try to build them a little on the small side for kids to fit in there because they don't want the little kids to miss out on stuff. Well, when you're designing restraint systems and things like that, you know, the ride requirement, the height requirement of the ride, there's two things that dictate it. One is the size of the person, and the other one is the force of the ride. So you can build those trains like, let's use Tron. You could build those trains like Tron and say, hey, this will accommodate a 38-inch rider. Cool. Lots of little kids can fit on that ride. That is great. Then you have to start asking, are kids mature enough at that point in time to ride? And by that, I mean up here, are they mature enough? Are they going to try to wiggle their way out of that restraint? 38 inches, they might. They might try to wiggle their way out of their restraint. So even though the ride can hold them at 38 inches, they go 42 inches because we want that kid to be a little bit older so they don't try to wiggle their way out of that restraint, right? So everyone's safe. And then they go, okay, we're going to bump it up to 42. All right. The next one is that ride. So it's the G-force on the ride. When they're doing the restraint calculations on rides, they say, all right, we have X amount of G-force over X amount of time. It's going to put this much stress on the rider. So what they look at is your bones, right? Your bones have to have a density to them to support that G-force. And I'm not talking about momentarily. I'm talking about sustained. So if the ride puts too much G-force on the rider, you need a denser bone. Denser bones come with older riders. Older riders are taller, so that's how they get the height out of there. They want bone density, age to height. It's all a ratio, right? And to G-force and time sustained in that G-force. That's why most of the bigger rides that have lots of G-force, they're all 54-inch and above, because the trains can easily accommodate riders down in the low 40s, I'm sure, but their G-force is too much for younger bodies. So they want older bodies that can withstand the G-force. So along those lines, if they were to make Tron 54-inch, you can give it more G-force, which means all those trim brakes, because man, every time that ride hit a trim brake, it slowed down, way down. I understand that's nicer on the ride and structure, it's nicer on your vehicles, it doesn't tear stuff up as fast. But anyone that's been on that ride, can you imagine that ride with absolutely no trim to it, where it comes off that launch and just flies straight through the rest of that arena? There's also a little bit of speed involved with Disney's animation stuff, right? They animate everything inside the ride to go that certain speed. Well, the ride vehicle has to match that, so they have to slow it down to at least that speed to match with what the show is doing. But I think the real thing is just their G-force and stuff over that caused it to be a 48-inch, and it could have been a little bit higher and maybe go a little bit faster, probably made it a little bit better, but that's just me. I didn't pay whatever hundreds of millions of dollars or whatever that ride costs. I'm sure it costs a lot. Anytime you build huge show buildings and stuff for it, it does. But I had a really good time. That was a really good trip. We enjoyed just being the two of us, and the kids enjoyed, of course, a weekend of no parents home. That's always fun for them. They went out and had their own stuff. They went to the local pumpkin patch and stuff, and they had a good time every night as well, too. So I wanted to do a quick trip update. If you haven't already, like and subscribe. Let me know what you think, especially if you got some of that information on Tron, how those LIM motors are actually set up to that thing. Does it use a trolley? Does it not? Is it direct drive down there? I'm honestly confused about that one. Yeah, I'm Ryan the Ride Mechanic, and remember, no matter what park you're at, stay off the air gates. Bye.